Jeannie Brown.
Yep.
From Jackson, 2940, Washington. CRT teaches black people they are disadvantaged because of the color of their skin. It teaches all white people are racist, conscious of it or not. It tells black people they are nothing more than their circumstance. It's learned helplessness. Being told they are where they're at because of white people. Keisha's fear and hatred is based on her reality that she needs other people to agree with her. I don't agree with her opinions. I feel sorry for her having to live in her fear-based world where most of the population is out to destroy her. Her reality is not my reality. She is not afraid of any repercussions of her actions to spew hate speech freely on social media for all to see. I demand her resignation and immediately, and other teachers that feel the same way as her. Thank you.
Thank you. Yep. Stephanie Riley, then Maisha Jones.
Stephanie Riley, Jackson, Michigan. Good evening. I'm here to express my unhappiness and disgust with the hateful, racist, and deeply decisive social media post by Keisha Hamilton. A person with such contempt and hatred for other races has no place in public life and certainly no place on a school board. One must be expected to set the highest standard of personal conduct for the community that entrusts its children into its care, to say nothing of the $10 millions in taxes to keep this school going. Keisha Hamilton is only one member of this board. The other 6 board members must openly condemn her hateful words and disruptive conduct tonight, or they will stand guilty of condemning this atrocious behavior. Enough is enough. Either blatant, open racism is acceptable at JPS or it is not. The board must make a stand tonight or lose all credibility with every parent, student, teacher at JPS and the silent majority that supports this school district with their tax dollars. Once stated by Martin Luther King Jr., darkness cannot drive out darkness, only light can do that. Hate cannot drive out hate, only love can do that. Thank you.
Maisha Jones, and then Sheila Traxel.
Okay, woo, it's hot in here, Lord, okay. Now I have to bring the mic up because I want everybody to hear me. I prepared some notes. I'm probably not going to read any of those. But I first and foremost want to just thank all of the folks that are here to support my sister and friend, Keisha Hamilton, of who I know, not I think, but who I know has the utmost character and integrity. I want to be very clear because I appreciate some of the questions from some of the folks up here who don't understand. You see, ignorance, I understand ignorance, right? Ignorance means a lack of knowledge, you just don't know. And I understand the importance of language as having a master's degree in communication and leadership. So I want to help educate some of you because nowhere in Keisha post did it say anything about white people. Not your white mother, not your white self, not your white daughter, and not your white son. We're not talking about a person. Whiteness, okay, listen closely. Whiteness is the system, the ideology, the belief, the thought that because your skin is white, you are superior to black people. Because your skin is white, you deserve better. Because your skin is white, you have better opportunities, that you're just a better person. And that is not true. No human being, especially if you claim you love God, should be in approval of the fact that any person based off of the color of their skin is better than another person. I'm speaking as a human being right now. We're human beings in here. And to the board, if you believe that somebody, because of the color of their skin, is better than someone else, then you have a problem too. Because as a board, you should be fighting against whiteness. Again, not white people, but the idea that because the color of your skin is white, you are better than somebody. Now, honey, if you're gonna quote Dr. Martin Luther King, make sure you quote the whole thing, okay? Because he did not just say, being judged based off of the content of your character. Remember what he said before that. He said people shouldn't be judged by the color of their skin. And as a black woman today who is very beautiful, who is very educated, who serve in JPS systems right now, making the lives better for all of your children, I know every day I'm judged based off the color of my skin. So if you don't quote it right. We have a problem, and it's not with people, it's with whiteness. Now, in my last 10 seconds, all of the people who work against racism and check your white privilege, please stand up. All the white people, I only want to see white people. This is proof that this ain't about you. This is about a systemic thing. Check yourself. That's all, thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, good evening. I'm Sheila Troxel. I'm here today to speak as a citizen of Jackson. I am a resident and taxpayer, so I just want to make sure that distinction is clear since I know I work with many of you. I am here also in support of Keisha Hamilton, and I think Maisha did a really great job explaining whiteness to people. And you know, that's the best thing about education, right? Is it's an opportunity to have a conversation, to understand the actual facts that go into that discussion. And so I just want to say I am with you guys that have stood up here and supported Keisha. You're having some difficult conversations and they're important, and I want to keep you in the school board, and I want you to keep asking those tough questions. It just makes us better. It makes us uncomfortable, right? But we all know through discomfort comes change. And it's not always easy, and it's hard, especially coming from as a white person. It is tough to have those conversations, and I'm glad that I have people in this community working with me to make me a better white person. So thank you, Keisha.
We now have Zoe Lyons and then Eric. Really, really long, confusing name. You know who you are, starting with S-C-C-C-E.
Good evening. I'm going to read. I'm not going to be as well-spoken as Keisha and Sheila. My name is Zoe Lyons. I reside in Jackson, and I have 3 adult sons who graduated from Jackson High School. I'm back with a similar statement I have made before to this board, as I believe that it is critical. I was born and raised in Flint, Michigan myself, graduated from Flint Northern High School, and I share these bits of information as just a quick reminder of who I am. I began my own learning journey to become anti-racist about 6 years ago. One of the things that we share in this work is what we call the 3 Fs. I felt, I found, and I feel. Before I started in this work of anti-racism and DEI, I felt like I didn't have a lot to learn. Born and raised in Flint, Michigan, went to a very diverse high school, thought I was good on all things race-related. After my learning, I have found that not only was I not good, but I was really uneducated about race and the history of our country. And so I began to seek all of the information and do all the learning I could. I feel some sadness now that I was 50 years old before this learning started in me. And I urge those of you who are not as old as me to start now in your learning. I have learned that systems have marginalized and oppressed people of color, specifically black and brown people, as well as LGBTQIA and other abled. I feel responsible now to be a good ancestor by continuing this work. I share again an invitation to the members of the JPS board, our superintendent and its administrators, and others within JPS to lean in and do all the learning that you can, to read books and watch movies and read articles, do a book study. Reach out to me. I'd be happy to have coffee with you, answer questions, and share what I've learned. come to a workshop on anti-racism, which is currently open for registration. I'm also sharing this again because my socialization had me jumping to judgment immediately when I saw pictures of Keisha's social media. And then I did my work. I spent time thinking about what I've learned. I reminded myself that I know Keisha, and she is not speaking about white people. It is about systemic racism, and that has created disparities that you've heard all about tonight. And I called Keisha to talk about it. These types of actions are what everybody should do before jumping to conclusions and making judgment, and it's not too late to start. I ask you to lean into authentic engagement and learning about race and racism for the good of our JPS students. Because here at JPS, we proudly have black and brown and white and multiracial students, and they need all of you. We have students living in poverty, we have hungry and homeless students, we have traumatized students, and they're counting on you as their board to help them. And so are their teachers. They're black and brown and white teachers. They need you too. The diversity of this board is something to be proud of. It does not happen everywhere. And it's imperative that you communicate authentically with each other, that you hear the voices of those who have historically not been heard, and you come together in your truth and your love and your commitment to understand each other to benefit the students at JPS.
Your time has concluded, please.
Thank you.
Thank you. Where's Eric? Then Michael Young, after Eric.
Hi, my name is Eric Shapaniak. I was a proud school board member of Kennewood Hills Public Schools in Grand Rapids for 5.5 years. I also had the privilege of being a mentor and friend and colleague to Trustee Hamilton. We've routinely talked about situations that come up on our own boards, and so I want to encourage my friend and chair division maker, Trustee Hamilton, and tell her that her friendship and truth-telling definitely served me and my community as much as it does this one. I want to encourage the board to keep their foot on the gas when it comes to diversity, equity, and inclusion practices. A good example of this is disaggregating data for the races of students that are in your AP honors and dual enrollment programs. Like my district, if you find that these programs are far whiter than the district, then it should raise a red flag. It's not anybody's fault that's in this room today, but it is incumbent on us to try to grow that and include more of those students, figure out why we're not reaching a certain class of students. And you have to have smart goals about how to grow enrollment in these programs. We know that high expectations lead to higher achieving students. Next, to share the wealth a little bit, I want to address a misguided action that this school board took the last year, voting 5-2 to exclude the highest and lowest scores in the superintendent's evaluation. I've taken courses with some of the folks on this board. I recognize the faces, and I just want to say that that is no way recommended by the Michigan Association of School Boards. You have essentially erased 2 voices of board members, a board of 7 in this community. And I want board members to think about what that means, especially the new folks on this board. What does that mean when they just don't like your opinion on something, that the board is willing to exclude it? Anytime you make a decision after the results have come out, like you just did with the superintendent's evaluation, you have cheated your colleagues and you have cheated the public. Changing the standards for how you will evaluate the superintendent because you did not appreciate the results of them is wrong and shameful. Nowhere does MASB support a move like that. I know that because I was the highest achieving school board member this past year in the state. MASB advocates for a consensus model of superintendent evaluations, but this model is still flawed, and there is a better way to evaluate it, and it's certainly including all the voices of the 7 members of this community that were asked and charged with the oversight of the board, of the superintendent and of this district. Additionally, the superintendent still has in his contract a $62,000 increase for an HR responsibility that he no longer covers since the district has successfully hired an HR manager. This is wrong. And in the words of my friend Keisha Hamilton, good board governance feels like an agenda when you're just not accustomed to it.
Thank you. Michael Young?
I'm a preacher,
Elena Shane, after that.
and y'all took my sermon. But I do want to start with this. As a pastor, as a person who holds the gospel of Jesus Christ in his heart, as a person who speaks to that every single Sunday morning, I think we need to remind ourselves that they hung him from a tree too when he spoke against the power and the empire of greed and power, and they didn't like what he had to say either, so they hung him from a tree. We must not forget that Martin Luther King Jr., although he says some nice things for our memory, and although we go into those memories on Mondays like we did yesterday, and we celebrate his birthday, we seem to forget that they assassinated him too and lynched him in a hotel in Mississippi as well. So we like to crucify people that speak truth to power. And as a white person, I was not scared, and I am not scared about that word whiteness. It doesn't scare me because I know that that's the system that I came from, and that's a system that we all need to break down. Now that's my own personal thing. My message to the board this evening is that you have a job to do. And you have the blueprint for doing that job. You have a DEI. It's a wonderful DEI statement on the website. I'm proud of that as a Jackson resident. My church, I'm proud of our website that we have our open and affirming covenant right on the front page of our church's website. And you have DEI right on the front page of the Jackson Public Schools website. Stick to that. But as you can see, you're going to be told that no, you can't do that because it's CRT and it's going to make white folk uncomfortable. Well, we need to be uncomfortable sometimes. See, I also think that this person of Jesus Christ that we're talking about, since someone brought it up, I was not going to preach or proselytize, but since we're talking about that, I think that Jesus Christ kind of tends to make the comfortable uncomfortable and the afflicted comfortable. I think that's his role. And sometimes we don't like to be uncomfortable, but we have to be uncomfortable. Stick to this DEI. Don't run from it. But for the white folk on the board, remember, it is your work to fight the racism within yourself. This racism will not end unless white people honestly open themselves up and deal with it. And when someone like Keisha says whiteness, it scares us. We don't like it. It doesn't scare me. Because the system of whiteness is what is sickening this world. It's what's dividing us. And we are the community that is given the power to educate these children in a multicultural, multiracial, multigendered world. And we are ruining their education if we do not stick to DEI and understand how racism is tearing apart this nation. The soul of this nation. The soul of this nation. And the souls of these children are in our care. And we need to care for them in this multicultural, multigenerational world.
Thank you very much. Elena Sharp.
Good evening. My name is Elena Sharp. I'm at 715 Washington. I am a resident of the city, a public high school teacher in the county, a mom of 5. I also had the privilege of working with many of your teachers throughout the district as they sought to implement educational technology effectively in the classroom during my time as a technology consultant for the ISD, and you have some rock star teachers. My hope for the board tonight is for you to stay true to your goal with urgency, that is, making decisions that are best for our students. Starting in the 1970s, research said that the most important variable affecting student outcomes wasn't how much technology they had, not the resources of the district, not even the curriculum, the quality of the classroom teacher. All of the research since has supported this. So, in a time when teacher morale is lower than ever, teachers are leaving the profession more than ever. In a time where students face new challenges none of us have ever seen, please do not let the distractions you've been presented with prevent you from doing your work. Please support your students. This includes those that have been historically and systematically underserved. Not all of us are qualified to understand this, but I support Ms. Keisha Hamilton in her effort to lead us towards understanding how it affects our community, most importantly, our students. It's not an easy thing to hear. It's humbling, but it is so, so necessary. And since Martin Luther King Jr. has been quoted against Ms. Keisha Hamilton without full context, I wanted to remind everyone of another one that we don't often here from 1967, a lot more difficult. Whites, it must frankly be said, are not putting in a similar mass effort to re-educate themselves of their racial ignorance. It is an aspect of their sense of superiority that the white people of America believe they have so little to learn. On your website, you state that the vision of Jackson Public Schools is to create lifelong learners. If that is true, the adults in our students' lives should be models of that. We all, as white people, and you as leaders of the school community, have the opportunity to demonstrate what this looks like with patience, grace, and humility, especially when it's hard and uncomfortable. I urge you, please stay true to your vision and mission. Just listening to Ms. Baker's update is wonderfully exhausting, and this is coming from a teacher and a mom of 5. All of those wonderful things are due to your hardworking staff. What can you do to lift them up? After all, they have the biggest impact on our most precious things of all, our students. Thank you.
Thank you. Now we could have Danita Bentley and then Sherry Butters.
Hello, my name is Donita Bentley. I am a JPS employee. I am a 4th grade teacher at Northeast Elementary. I can't say anything in support of Keisha Hamilton that hasn't already been said and been said better than I could say it. And my push is actually to the rest of the board, that if we truly are trying to fight for DEI, if we truly are trying to make our district more equitable, then I hope there is no consideration to try and get rid of Keisha, but to push the rest of you to be closer to where Keisha is. As somebody who came into the 4th grade teaching position last year, well-trained, having done a lot of DEI work, I am now standing in a position where just last month, before this whole thing happened, I said to my husband, I need to go to the board meeting, and I need to tell them how passionate I am about DEI. Because the trainings we're doing so far are great, but I'm at a point where the trainings I'm getting from the district, I'm far past that. And I need to know what our next step is. I need to know what the big picture is. I need to know what we're going to do next. Because you're training teachers to do better in their classrooms, which is an amazing first step, and it's something we absolutely need. What's the next step? When you have all these teachers trained, and they are now pushing up against the JPS systems that are still broken, what's the next step? How do we get past those systems? How do we fix those systems? Where is the safe place to have the conversations to fix the systems that are still broken? So I would like to know, and I know you cannot answer me right now, from the board, what is the big plan for our DEI? Where are we going from here? Right now we're training classroom teachers, and maybe there's a plan, I'd love to see it, I don't know where to go look for it. What's the next step? Because it's got to keep going, and we have to have these hard conversations. We have to be uncomfortable, but if we're going to serve all of our students to the best of our ability, there's got to be more. And teachers have to feel comfortable to push against the systems that are broken, that are not serving our children. And in that light, 2 more things, if I can say them quick enough. 1, in our DEI work, I would like us to see using more local people who have done this work. Jackson Collaborative Network, every teacher in here should see the disaggregated data that they have that is relevant to this community, that is the homes that our children are coming from. Bringing people from Detroit and wherever else, that's great. We have people right here in this community that can do the job better and give us data that applies to our students. Second, I love, love, love hearing the wonderful updates. As the person said before me, it shows to the work that our staff is doing. My question, where is the time and place to share the trials, the tribulations, the hard things that we are doing every day? Because if you're coming and just telling them how wonderful we are, the rest of the board has no idea how hard we are working every day and the struggles we are facing every day.
Thank you. We have Sherry Butters next, and then Leland Snooks.
Good evening. I'm Sherry Butters. I live in the city of Jackson. I'm a proud mom of 3 students who have either graduated from Jackson High or are currently working on it. And I have to say, as a city of Jackson resident, as a woman of 48 years, I am a product of whiteness. I read Keisha's social media post, And I felt that in my heart, and I understood exactly what she meant, because many of my well-meaning friends and family immediately leapt to disbelief, offensiveness, taking offense. And that right there reinforced my understanding of what whiteness is. Whiteness is designed to keep the current systems in place that are producing the current outcomes that we see. You can look at any of the data that's been talked about tonight, and you disaggregate that and you look at the Black experience in our community, every single outcome looks different. That is not acceptable. And we cannot sit in a room who claims to, all of these folks hopefully came because they care about the education of our young children here in Jackson County. And if they don't, they need to leave the room. This board, I agree, needs to stay focused on education of our children and not get distracted by the issues. But the issues that need to be at the forefront of our education is that our kids deserve an equity-centered education that centers around racial justice. We cannot continue to ignore the fact that people like me have benefited from my skin color, right? Being born white, being born to a two-parent household, to a two-income household. I've benefited from all of those things, but the one thing I had nothing to do with, as others have shared, I was born a white person, and I am a product of my whiteness, and I am working to educate myself and hold myself accountable for my whiteness, and I encourage us all to do so. Thank you.
Thank you. Leland Snooks, followed by Marcy Miller.
My name is Leland Snooks. Some of you, I'm Jackson City resident. Some of you may have heard my name or seen me. I did run for school board and I did not win, but congratulations to Derek and Marilyn. I will be running in the future and I do look forward to sitting up there and replacing one of you. So just as another little bit of background, I am almost finished with my doctorate of education. And also, Jeff, I am not out of order. This is not a courtroom, and I'm going to say my piece when I want to say it. So, past meeting issues. You're eye rolling, you're calling each other out, you're tit for tat, and asking for the time when someone is speaking and you might not like what they say. That needs to end. It's not professional. It's not setting a good example for the students. So, it's disrespectful to education, and I would say, please end it, from one professional to another. You're a team, and yet you do not seem to act like one. You have new members, new opportunities to work together, so I suggest that you use those. You might not like a message that someone says, you might not like how it's said, but you are adults, you choose how you react, and you choose how you move forward. Also, policies and procedures can be changed. You may change how you do things. You don't have to act and make decisions like you did 5 years ago, 1 year ago, even a month ago. It's up to you. So when was the last time any of you were in a classroom for more than 10 minutes? Do you understand how culture has impacted classroom culture? Now, we really need to reevaluate the pride that is placed on a baseline of 2.0. Arguably, 2.0 to 2.6 is successfully failing. We need to hold us and our students to a better standard than that. We can do better. We should do better. And finally, I would like to advise the board in the future to have citizens and community members speak constructively and keep things focused on educational concerns and not emulate what the board has done and gone back and forth at one person or another. We can conduct ourselves as adults like we should be doing for our children. Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, Marcy Lapp? Okay. Stephanie Sizik? Followed by Joanna Perkin.
Good evening. I'm Stephanie Sizek, retired Spanish teacher of Jackson High School. To board members Keisha Hamilton and Libby Brown, although the motion failed 2-5, we thank you both for voting to remove the extra duty pay from the superintendent's contract, as he is no longer HR director. Why, as a result of your votes, is Superintendent Beal receiving not only his annual salary, but also receiving full pay as HR director when someone else has finally been hired for that position and Beal's no longer HR director? This violates board policy 0122, just a list of many violations in the past. Keisha and Libby, thank you for maintaining integrity, not only in your decision-making, but adhering to board policy, and for continually standing for education of all students, anti-bullying, free speech, racial equality, and support of JPS in a fair and always professional manner. Thank you. Keisha, please don't be discouraged by the threats, the bullying, the intimidation tactics, and the harassment that many in this room are and have been using against you in order to, quote, get you in line, end quote. It has been 1 year since that statement was made by recent and former board member Aaron White about you, Keisha, and we can't thank you enough for your courage and standing your ground. You were told during the March 2022 school board meeting, once you have a target on your back, it will always be there. Time has proven this to be true. We trust that ill feelings that those individuals have toward you don't turn to physical violence. We are praying for your safety, and we trust that you continue to stand your ground. In the entirety of my 30 years teaching career within Jackson Public Schools, you are the best this board has ever seen. Our blessings to both Libby and Keisha. Thank you.
Joanna Perkin, followed by Amy Wilhelm.
I didn't realize I'd be attending a circus today. I'm Joanna Perkin, a retired JPS teacher of over 20 years, during which time I was Teacher of the Year, served as English Chair and Building Committee Chair. I'm here tonight in support of Keisha, whom I've witnessed be harassed, berated, invalidated, spoken down to, cut off during these board meetings. To say that I am disgusted, disconcerted, or dismayed would all be a gross understatement. The things I have witnessed and personally experienced within this district are the epitome of despicable. This current racial tension reminds me of the former HR director, Nicole Johnson, who came forth with her appalling account of Superintendent Beal saying the N-word in its entirety. And by that, I do not mean nig or nigger. He spoke the word nigger in the presence of her, the HR director, and a black woman. There was an employee witness, and she filed a complaint and formally and professionally reported it to the board to no avail. It was not even dignified with a follow-up phone call. As of late, Superintendent Beal, who was also found guilty in a court of law of retaliation all the way to the Supreme Court, yet there's a blatant disregard for the policy and professional standards that just continues, and we focus on Keisha. Right. In fact, the board continues this by amending the criteria for Beal's evaluations to accommodate him after, being the operative word after, Keisha and Liberty submitted ineffective scores for Mr. Beal. Superintendent Beal has been accused of harassment, retaliation, abuse, Sexual abuse by a litany of women over and over and over and over and over again. And over again. Yet it continues to fall on deaf ears, and again we focus on Keisha. The Board 5 have remained unmoved and continue in overtly stating, and I quote, "We need to get to the business of the board." Well, folks, if the well-being of students and staff isn't the board business, I'm frightful of what is. Still, we continue to fight the good fight. The shirt I'm wearing today is not only in support of Keisha, but it's a shirt I made for my students several years ago. And it reads, "I was created to do great things." I believe that for my students. I still believe that for them, but they were not afforded the opportunities in this school-to-prison pipeline and dumping ground they were thrown into. To the 2 new board members, I would suggest getting up to speed by taking the time to watch the videos of the meetings within the past year.
Your time has concluded, Joanna. Thank you.
Thank you. We love you, Keisha.
Amy Wilhelm, and then Andre, I don't have a last name.
Good evening. My name is Amy Wilhelm, and I am a program manager at the Student Advocacy Center. Our agency supports students and families at JPS as well as across Jackson County and the state of Michigan. Our agency works to ensure that all students have the supports that they need in school to be successful and reach graduation or high school completion. I'm here this evening to support Board Member Keisha Hamilton in the important work that she is doing on behalf of JPS students, staff, and the community. Ms. Hamilton has recently had brave conversations about race and the systematic racism that exists in our society as well as in our schools. She has spoken out in her role as a board member and in her personal life, including using social media as a platform for conversations that must be had about injustices that exist in an effort to bring about positive change. I grew up in a rural, predominantly white town. I was provided messages that racism no longer existed and that ended with the civil rights movement. It was not until I went to college that I began to learn that racism does very much still exist. Oppression and bias are embedded within all of our systems across this country. Just because we don't experience something doesn't mean that it isn't a reality. As white people, we have the privilege of not experiencing implicit bias and microaggressions, but it is a reality for people of color in our society. I was also told growing up that I could achieve anything that I wanted if I worked hard, but have learned that the message that many children of color receive is that they need to work twice as hard to earn half as much because of racism and the bias systems that exist. My friends of color and loved ones have been vulnerable and shared with me story after story of how they've been treated differently, judged, pulled over, interrogated, feared, and avoided by white people. I have watched it happen with my own sons who are black, and how the white person changed their behavior when I approached the interaction they were having, which I believe wasn't because I was their parent, but because of the privilege that I hold because of the color of my skin. Racism does exist. Systematic racism does exist. We need to acknowledge this truth if there is to be change. We need to be brave and vulnerable and have difficult conversations if we want there to be change. Ms. Hamilton is doing this. She is being brave. She is speaking her truth and sharing about the reality that JPS students and staff face. I applaud her and thank her for the work that she is doing to make change. I encourage those here who are pushing back against Ms. Hamilton to instead listen to what she's saying and open your hearts and minds to this reality that our JPS students and families and community members are facing, and instead of creating division, become solution-focused and help make positive change for our community. Thank you.
Last name was Parker, Andre, yes.
Parker, thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Representing Student Advocacy Center, we're here in Jackson. I would like to say good evening to the board. Thank you for being here. Welcome to the new members. I look forward to working with you both. Mr. Dubies, we had a meeting before. I've spoken to several of you on the board. Let's not lose focus on what the business of the board is. I believe right now the focus is off the task at hand and what the board is meant to do, and some people have talked about it. I think on the agenda you have the ESSER funds and how those should be dispersed and used. We still have child homelessness, the test records of the district are below average. IEPs and services are not being followed. The teacher morale, people have come up and said multiple things. So let's keep our eye on the prize. Know that my organization, Student Advocacy Center, and me, myself, Andre Parker, are here to help. So whatever I can do, please let me know, and whatever our organization can do, let me know. I 100% support Keisha Hamilton. Change is hard, and people speaking up for change is difficult. Some things need to be said, they don't want to be heard. It's okay, right? I don't like some of the things that are said to me sometimes, but the truth is the truth. She doesn't speak in vagueness. It's data-driven. Anything that's said, you can look up. It's factual. Sometimes it's hard. The facts are hard, but it's factual. So let's take the focus on what Keisha said and the business of this district, because it is a great district. Please, if I can do anything, let me know. Everyone, stay together.
Thank you very much. Paris Anderson, followed by Jennifer Bittinger. Bittinger? Yes. Paris and then Jennifer.
I have to read off my phone, so. Okay. My name is Paris Anderson, and in this speech it says, "This is my wife, Kristen." She's sitting back there. She didn't want to come up, so it got a little intense, so called an audible at the last minute. But I have taught and coached at the secondary level for Jackson Public Schools for the past 2.5 decades. And on a side note, seeing some of these younger teachers, with emotion and passion is a beautiful thing. I met a lady, ironically, during DEI training, 37 years in the game, still excited and passionate. So my relationship with school board member Keisha Hamilton started roughly 5 years ago when I taught one of Keisha's daughters in my African American history class. I reached out with an email to all parents with an overview of the class and things that I would be covering. Keisha reached out with an email of support, and we later met in person at parent-teacher conferences. Our relationship has evolved since that time, with me teaching 4 of her 6 children, and she's assured me that I will be teaching the other 2. We also attended a presentation on by Malcolm X's daughter and started to follow each other on social media. She supported me in my endeavors, both inside and outside of academics, and I have been fortunate enough to be invited by her to many African American cultural events within the Jackson community and offer her support and communication for her role as a JPS school board member. Never once in these 5 years has she questioned me, a white man, a conservative Christian white man at that, in regards to my ability to teach her children about their history, a history that's not mine, which is kind of how our conversation got started. And she has never had a question about that, and I always had questions about myself teaching it. She has often referred to my wife, again, who's back there, and children as beautiful, and I know of many events in which she has assisted white students and parents with concerns they had regarding their child's education. That was shown out here tonight. These do not seem like the words or actions of a racist to me. Those who have studied history, and black history in particular, know the importance of a militant fighter within the cause, and things go way deeper than Martin Luther King. And when that's your only reference point, it shows really why we're here today, not understanding this word whiteness. It shocks me that in the year 2023, society is telling a black woman that they don't like her approach or style. I think we have spent too much time as a society telling black folk to quiet down and wait till later. Keisha Hamilton is I appreciate it. Keisha Hamilton is an agent of change, and those who truly take the time to not only listen to what she's saying, I'm amazed at the amount of people that knew what you were talking about, and I think that's a beautiful thing. But to educate themselves on the issues that she is raising, will understand that she is, to quote what Brooklyn Dodgers general manager Branch Rickey said regarding Jackie Robinson's integration into Major League Baseball, she is the medicine society needs. Furthermore, an amazing thing about black history is that there is way, way more to learn about it than MLK. That is truly merely the surface. I want to say, on a side note, I'm really impressed with the jobs that Jessica Carter and Jeremy Patterson are doing in their new positions. I think you're doing amazing work. I think the future is bright, and I appreciate your time and consideration.
Thank you, Paris. Shelley Wither after Jennifer.
Good evening. Today, I must speak out against the actions and inappropriate representation of Jackson Public Schools taken by our school board trustee, Keisha Hamilton. As you have heard from the outrage of others, Ms. Hamilton has publicly stated beliefs that are unacceptable for anyone with influence on our children and their education. I was astonished at first from reading her comments, thinking there must be some kind of misunderstanding, but to my surprise, when I privately questioned her, she not only admitted to the post, she lauded over the fact that she was an expert on the subject and was paid to teach it to others. So sadly, she has convinced me that in her deceived and indoctrinated thoughts, she does not see she has become what she speaks out against: bigotry. Definition: bigotry, obstinate or unreasonable attachment to a belief, opinion, or faction, in particular prejudice against a person or people on the basis of their membership of a particular group. And she states she's just talking about whiteness, but what about the post that says the man walking through the forest should be more afraid of coming upon white folk than an animal? That's not just talking about whiteness, but even to say that whiteness is evil, this comes to the root of the problem. Evil wants people to turn from God's truths. God is holy and he does not make mistakes. He gave us laws to live by. He created male and female. He gave parents, he did, and that's truth. He gave parents responsibility for their own children. He did not create white people evil. Sin makes white people evil. Evil is in all of us, from the whitest white person to the blackest black person, and all in between. Yes, white supremacy is wrong, but black supremacy is wrong too. Quoting a great leader, the time is always right to do what is right. I gladly look forward to someday joining hands of all colors of skin, without prejudice, with brothers and sisters in Jesus Christ. Until then, we must admonish and correct those who spread bigotry and false blame to people instead of the evil source. We do need good programs to improve education, skills, and character for all, but we must crumble the prejudices and false teachings of critical race theory and DEI, which to me stands for divisive education indoctrination. These anti-God, anti-truth ideologies are being pushed.
Thank you. Your time is up.
Please stop indoctrinating our children with harmful, false ideologies. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Shelley Wilbur and Lanisha Wilson.
My name is Shelley Wilbur from Jackson County. Ms. Williams' public comments about whiteness that is evil is in fact racist, a racial slur. If all people are white people are racist, how do you teach white children and work with white people? JPS has so far been silent. They do not condemn these accusations that you've made. Here we are on the eve of Martin Luther King's holiday. I think it's important to remember all that this great man stood for. Some of his famous quotes: darkness does not drive out darkness, only light can do that. Hate cannot drive out hate, only love can do that. Let no man pull you so low as to hate him. There is something about that hate that tears down and is destructive, so love your enemies. Never forget what Hitler did in Germany was legal. Well, maybe just to a point, though. All men are created equal, not equitable, but equal. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Lanisha Wilson, and then John King.
I am just here for support for Keisha Hamilton. I have known her for about 30 years, I think this year. She's been my best friend since I was 12. Some people say she's just gotten into this when she started running for the school board, but I've known her to be a big reader since we were like 12, and I would be like, how can you read all these books and understand them? So I know she is very knowledgeable in whatever she talks about. And I was just here, I'm not a good speaker, I'm a salesperson. So I just want to be here for support. I've known her for 30 years, all these people who have spoken. I don't know, I know you can't say that you've known her for 30 years, so you can't speak on her character or her motive or why she said what she said. And Libby Brown, I support Libby Brown, Keisha Hamilton. Libby was my teacher. I did graduate from Jackson High School in 2000. I was born and raised in Jackson, and I just appreciate all the things that Libby Brown is doing and Keisha Hamilton.
Thank you. John King, and then Harry Gann.
I'm John King, 203 3rd Street here in the city. Originally, I thought I would get here. I'm sure Derek Dobies wouldn't just feel right without me doing a public.
I was going to say it's John C. King, not John King.
Yeah. And it wouldn't be a meeting, I don't think, for you without me giving a public comment. So there were so many, they talk about the intolerant left, and I think that shows here, who's booing, interrupting speakers and everything like that. I think that shows something about people. Unfortunately, I've been through YouTube watching meetings, and unfortunately, there were the women that have been harassing Jeff Beal, and, they're just keeping it up with, I would assume, just disgruntled employees, that were fired, and so now they want to come up with all kinds of really crazy things. I agree, William Hastings, he, I would say, I agree with him. He gave a really good thing in all this list of things with Keisha. He mentioned the hoax, and they are Proud Boys. I mean, I knew once I noticed the Proud Boys signing up, I knew that was a hoax. That's what the city seems, the progressives love to push these hoaxes. We've had claims of all these racist emails. I know a couple of people are here that, sort of pushed that, and it turned out not to be true. We had the arson against the LGBT community leader, as it turned out, she was the one that was convicted. Nationally, there's Jussie Smollett. So this, Proud Boys nonsense, it wasn't, there's no Proud Boy chapter that's trying to get people to, join up. It's just another, a left-wing hoax to get people to support Keisha here. The people that stood up that white, I mean, they're really sick people that, to just, say, the whiteness and, feeling white guilt or whatever you want to call it. I'll mention Zoe Lyons. It wasn't until she was 50 that, all of a sudden, she was impervious to the world, and all of a sudden she became, informed on race. I mean, it's just, and then Michael Young, using Christ.
Thank you very much. Your time is up.
He's the Antichrist with his.
Thank you. Okay, we have Harry Gant and then T. McInnes.
Nope, Harry Gant,
Harry Gant.
Jackson resident.
Ladies
Really
and
heated
gentlemen,
up.
thank you.
Sit.
I'm here to address the number of sexual assaults happening under this roof. And that I spoke with Jeff Beals, Dr. Patterson on several occasions, and they have ignored what's been going on in the school. Keisha Hamilton, them some soft-spoken words that they fighting about. More important is the sexual assaults that took place. So the board needs to investigate that, whether Derek Doby, Mr. Patterson, this is serious. And I expect the board to start investigating this, as I look for an outside investigator to come in and look at this. You all talking about Keisha Hamilton. This is nothing compared to the sexual assaults going in the school and Jeff Beals ignoring them. You got the nerve to ask me, what do we do about it? You got the nerve to ask me, what do we do about the sexual assaults? Yeah, y'all remember me. I'll be knocking at the door. These kids deserve better than that. Even had a police officer was ready to just hand his badge in because he mentored the kid. You got police officers lying on these kids that they leave the school and grow up. Straight up lying. So all this will have to be addressed, and these sexual assaults too. If I had to come out of my own pocket for it, these sexual assaults will get looked at.
Thank you very much. T. McInnes. No? Sarah Allison. And then Cheryl Simonetti.
I won't move it. Good evening. I lived as of 2 weeks ago in the city of Jackson. We are now on the border of Vandercook and Jackson, the city. So I bring a unique perspective in that 2.5 years, my daughter may or may not be attending this school. I am a huge supporter of Keisha, of many of you on the board. I just hear the comments that are saying, and I didn't write anything down because I wasn't going to say anything. But sorry, we're passionate. It's an opportunity for the board to remember who is coming to your school, what they need, and I
this situation, my daughter will succeed wherever she goes. She has all of the privilege that everybody has talked about, and until the kids that in their school that don't have that privilege are able to have the same outcome that she's going to have in the future, I mean, we have to continue this fight. And I just, it appalls me when people come up here and say things about just the hateful things that have been said, and I don't know, I'm rambling, and it's past bedtime, but please just keep in mind, this is the future. My daughter will learn about equity and diversity and inclusion regardless of the school that she goes to, but she has an opportunity to go to this school, to go in this school district. We lived 6 blocks from Northeast until 2 weeks ago. It's a very real thing that we could attend Sharp Park or Cascades. I would love for her to stay in the school district. It is much more diverse than the school district that I grew up in. My father was on the school board of that school district. It is, I would say, in a better place than that school district, and I really would love that opportunity, but I would be watching the school board because I know the school board, what happens at the school board meetings, totally affects the outcomes of students, of which I will have one soon. Please take this opportunity to continue the work in DEI so that my daughter knows, and her teaching, my teaching her at home is reinforced in the school, so that the other kids in her class have the same privilege that she has. Please continue that. Thank you.
Thank you. Cheryl Simonetti, and then Johnny Orendello.
Cheryl Simonetti, 4871 Country Lane. And it is School Board Appreciation Month. I would like to thank each and every one of you sitting up there for your hard work and your dedication and your time. Thank you. I join those before me who at the very least insist that the board censor Trustee Hamilton, but ideally there must be a call for her resignation. I hear your definition of whiteness, but that does not excuse her angry and hateful words. Let us not forget about the other comment that cautioned the danger of encountering a white person on a walking trail. This is someone that we have making decisions about what is best for the students of Jackson Public Schools in a district that is more than 44% white, a city that is over 69% white, and a county that is 87% white. And one of her criticisms is decreasing enrollment. I wonder why. Regardless of the fact that she posted on her personal page, she has shared it publicly in association with Jackson Public Schools. This is a consistent character trait and one that does not align with our mission and vision. There are hundreds of documented cases of employees and public servants losing their positions and their jobs due to social media posts, and the majority of those are involving racism. If she truly was the DEI advocate that she claims to be, she would be offering education and mentoring and not the ridicule for what she sees as ignorance. She accused others for attempting to divide this community. This is exactly what she wants. This is why she is here. It is not for the students, the district, or the community. It is for her fame and notoriety and the intentional distraction from the great work that this district does. These posts were made to incite and divide with no explanation of her supposed intention until after she incited all this anger. She knows exactly what she's doing. I want to be sure the community is aware that aside from resignation, there are only 2 ways to remove a board member, either by a recall vote or removal by the governor. Several requests have been made to the governor, but for anyone else who would like to write, you can go to somgweb.state.mi.us. Thank you.
Thank you. Johnny, there we go.
Hi.
Hi.
My name is Joni Orendello. I am a Jackson resident. And I would like to say that, yes, I'm in support of Keisha Hamilton. I also know several other people that are out there on the stage. I personally know Marilyn Acton Dow, and I'm happy that she's on the board because I know her heart, and I hope that she works to bring the board together. I have been watching these board meetings for a while now. I have been working in the public schools. I actually work in several counties. I am a special education mediator and an IEP facilitator. I also do restorative practices, and I'm a local attorney. What sparked my interest to really start watching these board meetings is I had a personal incident with my daughter who has a 504 plan, and it was a board policy that prevented her from walking during her graduation ceremony with her peers this last year during graduation. Her 504 plan allowed for her to complete her classes after the graduation ceremony, but because of the board policy, she was prevented from walking with her peers. And the previous assistant superintendent, Patterson, his brother, called me on the phone without any empathy or anything and pointed me to the board policy. And no matter how emotional or how much information I had, then how emotional I got, I couldn't help but cry. There was no empathy. During the time that I've been watching this board meeting, I have heard Ms. Hamilton's voice be turned down. I've heard her be disregarded. And in one of the comments in regard to something she was bringing up about board policy was that the board policy doesn't address students and interactions with students. That was 100% a false statement. And I find it disappointing that a statement like that would be made after my personal experience with it just to shut up somebody. I had the opportunity to train Ms. Hamilton, and she was a great student, always asking questions, always learning more. And in that, we've developed a relationship. And I'm white. I don't know if you guys can tell, but she has never treated me with any hatred. I graduated from Fort Lauderdale High School, where the color of my skin was a minority. And I've had people not like me because of the color of my skin, and I have learned that that's because of their personal experiences, not because of me personally. And that's the information that I get from Keisha that she's trying to bring out. Asking for data is not anything that's wrong. The board should be open to the data to learn more. Asking for conferences from other jurisdictions, that's something the board should be open for, because I graduated from Fort Lauderdale High School, and I have friends that migrated and immigrated from Haiti, and now he's working in the U.S. legislature, and his skin is darker than Keisha's, and he's super successful, and I love him to death.
The 3 minutes is up. Thank
Thank
you
you.
very much. Deveda Quinn, and then Akira Anderson.
Good evening. I guess we're here again, huh? My name is Deveda Quinn, and I live, work, volunteer in this community almost 20 hours a day. I would say, wow, yeah, wow. And all of the work that I do in this community, homelessness, COVID, working with children, working with seniors, working with veterans. Children has always been number one at the top of that list. I've volunteered on many boards, committees. When I once again see that Jackson Public Schools have 8 schools at the bottom school rating is terrible. Terrible. Absolutely terrible. what you all supposed to be doing is taking care of our children. I don't see that. Superintendent, what you supposed to be doing is taking care of our children. I don't see that. Somebody on their own time, on their own social media, has something to say, then woo! Wow, look what she said. If we could just pull back the curtain a little bit on what all y'all say, woo, baby. If God's hand had to come down right then and there, y'all all would be gone. This is just foolishness. This is still, I think, America, and I think we can still say what we want to say. Freedom of speech. Not now, not never. You're going to stop me from saying what I want to say, when I want to say, and who I want to say it to. It's foolishness. Get to the business at hand. Let's get to the business at hand. Dibble Elementary, 5 out of 10. Jackson High, 4 out of 10. You graduating our kids 4 out of 10? No wonder they can't get through college. No wonder college is costing so much because they stay in college so long as you're teaching them nothing. Hunt, 3 out of 10.
Your 3 minutes are done.
Middle school, Parkside,
Thank
2
you
out
very
of
much.
10. Pardon?
Your 3 minutes are up.
My 3 minutes are up?
Yeah, thank you very much.
Good. Make sure y'all read it because it's everywhere.
Akira Anderson?
Yep.
Yeah, okay. And then Nancy Jankovic? Marcy Jankovic. Thank you, go ahead.
Okay, so my name is Akira Anderson, and I don't have anything prepared right now, but I just want to say, Keisha, look, there are a lot of people in this room who are racist, and they don't even realize it. But I want you and Libby to know something. You guys have the youth behind you, and a lot of other people do not have that. They didn't like what, how do I put this? They don't like what activists have to say, but change will persist. They don't like what you have to say, but change will persist because you have the future leaders behind you. You inspire me, and you know how much I hate to public speak, but these people in here who are talking bad about you, they don't even know you. I look up to you. And another thing, students in this district, over what, half of these students can't even read, and they're not proficient in math. Basic skills that these kids need, and you guys are worried about what she has to post. You guys never listen to her any other time, but you're concerned about a post. You not listening to her. You're not listening to her voice, you're not, and to the people out there who are saying that the Proud Boys don't exist or the KKK doesn't exist, I put on a Black Lives Matter protest at 18 years old in 2019, fresh out of high school, and guess what? As an 18-year-old student, I had death threats from who? The KKK. From who? Proud Boys. It's not just some myth. They're not just not here, but they're out here. And you know what, Keisha and Libby, I thank you, and I love you, and you have my support in the youth, and that's what matters most, because change is coming, whether y'all like it or not.
My name is Marcy Jankovic. I'm a Jackson resident. My grandson is a student at Jackson Public Schools. And I was real surprised on December 3rd, 2022 at noon to read the reply to Glenn E. Martin from Keisha Hamilton on whether or not there are dangerous animals on our city trails. Quote, "The last thing you have to worry about is an animal, though that could be a very real threat. More dangerous are any white folks you may see on the trail. Be safe." I think that's whiteness.
Ashley Woodson and Rachel Green, and then Wendy Waldron. The last 3.
My name is Ashley Woodson, Dr. Ashley Woodson, and I'm visiting you from Albion, Michigan. Critical race theory was first articulated in 1989 and was adopted in the field of education around 1998. It's an attempt at explaining continued racial disparity in the United States, but this is about 28 years old. We are almost 3 decades behind the pulse of theory and research in mainstream higher education. That's most of my life. We cannot equitably serve our students if we're still arguing the fundamentals. Widely accepted principles, the fundamentals include that racism is and has been an integral feature of American life, law, and culture. Wealth and prestige are cumulative, and there is little we'll be able to do to legally remediate the consequences of racial injustice in our society. That liberalism is insufficient, presumed meritocracy and colorblindness cannot rectify centuries of oppression based primarily on color. The theoretical significance of marginalized voices. Black people, other folks of color, have not and are not widely recognized as epistemic agents. Our reality is offensive to the systems that sustained themselves on the distortion of our humanity. Combining whiteness as property and intersectionality for purposes of time, it's important to remember that whiteness and white are not synonyms. Whiteness is a process, it's a system, it's a series of decisions that we can decide against. Now, one fair critique of critical race theory is its inability to provide sustainable solutions for the problems that it raises. It's a bit nihilistic and doesn't account for gender, class, sexuality, disability, religion, and other axes of identity in sustainable ways. It's also surprisingly Christian, contrary to some of the accusations that have been made. Christian-identified scholars and metaphors pervade the framework. No man can serve 2 masters, and all God's children got a song are the most popular of those. If you're looking for a critique of critical race theorists, those who teach the classes, they're not afraid of it. I strongly recommend Beyond All Reason, The Radical Assault on Truth in American Law by Faber and Sherry. That was published in 1997. Critical race theory is a point of departure for understanding society. It is not the destination. If we hope to get to that destination, we have to do so in good faith. We have to define racism, whiteness, blackness, and other categories of social identity honestly and consistently. We have to recognize that Board Member Hamilton's position does in fact align with evidence-based practices accepted in nearly every academic discipline. And we have to quote experts and catalysts for social change in their totality. So for King, since he came up so many times today, the majority of white Americans consider themselves sincerely committed to justice for the Negro. They believe that American society is essentially hospitable to fair play and to steady growth toward a middle-class utopia embodying racial harmony, but unfortunately, this is a fantasy of self-deception and comfortable vanity. Loose and easy language about equality, resonant resolutions about brotherhood fall pleasantly on the
Ashley,
ear.
I'm sorry, your 3 minutes are over. I'm finding you fascinating.
I find myself fascinating too.
But your 3 minutes are done. Thank
That's
you so
it.
much for
Whoever's
joining
next.
us. Okay, we have Rachel Green, Wendy Waldron. Hope I lied, there's one more, Roger Downing.
My name's Rachel Green, and I think I'm going to provide a perspective that I think more white people in this room have had than they would ever admit. I come from a racist family. I come from a family where I heard the N-word all the time. I heard about how black people were worse and they were lesser and they were stupid and lazy and ignorant. And it is because of teachers like Libby Brown, people like Keisha Hamilton, teachers like Paris Anderson, at this school district where I graduated, that I do not hold those beliefs. It is because of them, because they stood up and they told me what was right and what was wrong. They showed me the true history. You know, I heard somebody mention earlier that what the Nazis did with the Holocaust was legal. Do you know where they got the framework for those laws? They got them from segregation laws in America. Do you know where the Nazis got the idea for concentration camps? They got them from Americans from what we did to Native Americans. Okay? Racism is a part of this country. It is a part of this history. Racism against black people is a part of this history. Trillions of dollars of debt, of labor were stolen from black people. Our entire world, our entire modern world exists because of the slavery of black people. And yet some people want to come up here and say that because Keisha Hamilton has the bravery to engage people in these conversations, to make people listen and to make people question their beliefs, they think that that's okay to come in here and attack her for trying to help us instead of, focusing on what this school board should be, the education of our students. We have somebody wonderful like Libby Brown, who is the reason I see myself as a decent person. We have somebody wonderful like Keisha Hamilton, who is out here being abused, being attacked by people. And she takes it. She takes it amazingly. We have some people come out here and use the racist speech that she is a child, that she is immature. Just like they have shut down black women for hundreds and hundreds of years. And this is ridiculous that we are having this conversation instead of talking about school matters, instead of talking about how we have a superintendent who has how many sexual assault allegations? This is ridiculous.
Wendy Waldron, and Roger Downey. Is Wendy here? Roger Downey? Yep.
Good evening, Roger Downey. I was just elected to the school board over Columbia, and we had 2 new people on the board. We've got 2 new people here on the board. And with all the rest that's going on here tonight, I want to echo the sentiments of the young lady who was here with the red hat. She's saying things that you guys have to know. We're in a system, our state is ranked 43rd out of 50 in education. I know our schools are down. The young lady was talking about the graduation and that, and our reading, we've got 6 out of 10. You can pull 10 kids out of our high school, and only 6 of them can read at a level that is warranted. Only 4 can do math at that level. And I gotta just let you know that with the new people on the school board that we have and that you have, change is coming. And we gotta get back to with everything else. We've got to ready our young people. We've got to ready them in so many ways for the world that they're going to be coming to, because it's going to be changing. You got a person that's in the 6th grade. You can imagine 6 years between now and their graduation, the changes that are going to come. And you guys got to be in the forefront. You can't be waiting to be told what to do. You got to grab the bull by the horns, and you got to lead. And that's with the students, that's with the staff, whoever you come in contact with. And you better work together as a board, or it's not going to get done. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, that's it? Yeah, Okay, it's time now. Thank you all for your participation tonight. I really appreciate so many of you being here. Now it's time for our action items. Marcus, action items.
All right, so the first item that we have is a resolution authorizing switching our transfer agent. So our district bond payments are typically sent to a bank, an authorized bank or paying agent to distribute bond principal and interest payments to all the bondholders out there. There's a very nominal fee for the service. It's usually a few $100s per debt issue. We currently use the Bank of New York Mellon for this service. And after talking both internally and with our financial advisors at BFM, we're looking to switch our transfer agents from Bank of New York to Huntington Bank. The costs are almost identical. However, the reasoning for this is Huntington Bank provides a higher level of customer service in servicing these bond payments than Bank of New York has been over the last couple of years. So at this time, we would recommend adopting a resolution authorizing this change.
Move adoption of the resolution.
Motion by Mr. Movies, a second by
Support.
Any discussion on this before we vote? Okay, let's vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you, passes. Okay, the next one is, it's also Marcus, isn't it? It's also Marcus, electronic sign software hosting.
All right, so the district is looking to move our electronic sign software to a cloud-based version. What that means is some of the internal components on our electronic signs throughout the district will need to be replaced, which is what this quote is for, to upgrade the components of those signs. They will be paid for from the general fund and included in the next budget amendment that you'll see in the next couple of months down the road. So at this time, we would recommend approval of the proposal from Johnson Sign in the amount of $41,750.
Okay, thank you. We have a motion? Second?
Support.
Any discussion?
Madam Chair, just because I'm new, is there, I know we have a purchasing policy. Was this like bid? Were there bids for this work, or is it under a certain threshold where it wouldn't be bid?
So we did not bid these, however, we purchased the signs from Johnson Sign. So the signs came from there, so they would be the experts on being able to switch the components out and using compatible parts.
So we already use this software in a computer-based version. So what we're doing is we're recommending that we shift to a cloud-based version so that we are simply better protected and able to continue our communication should we run into an event like we had last November. No, we did not bid this out because, again, the signs are Johnson signs and we're using the same software that we used before. This is strictly an upgrade.
There we go. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you, motion carries. Next, we have the resolution calling for a public hearing on the ESSER grant funds. Marcus?
All right, so one of the requirements of the ESSER 3 grant, as you know from our presentation last summer, is to allow for meaningful stakeholder consultation on the proposed and current use of the ESSER 3 funds. What this means is every 6 months, we need to come back and have a public hearing to update the public, receive any input, and make any necessary adjustments that are needed. So at this time, we're recommending adopting the attached resolution, which just calls for a public hearing. So I can provide that 6-month update next Wednesday, January 25th at 2:45 245 at Reynolds Hall.
Okay, thank you. Any discussion about this one?
Yes, some discussion. I'm wondering if we can change the
Oh,
time.
I'm sorry, we need a motion first, I'm sorry.
I'll make a motion.
Okay, motion.
Support.
Support. Okay, now let's talk about it.
So I'm wondering if we can change the time. 2:45 PM is in the afternoon, which doesn't give us an opportunity to attend. Can we change the time? Do I need to make a motion for that? I'm sorry, repeat that?
There's no reason that we cannot change the time. We simply need a, this was attached to our facilities and finance meeting, but if you want to suggest a time, I don't think that Mr. Leon is opposed to changing the time.
So something in the evening would be nice so we can have an opportunity to come. It's 5:45, 5:30, just a different time. I don't know what would work for all of us, but just a different time, something in the evening.
5:30 on the same day, Ms. Hamilton?
That'll work.
Yep, we can
Thank
make that change.
Thank you.
So we're going to, just so I keep track of this, we're going to amend the recommendation, amend the motion, simply to change the time. Everything else is good, at least at this point. Correct, Ms. Hamilton?
Yep, the time was my issue. Thank you.
Thank you.
No more discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, thank you, motion carries. Okay, now we are in old business. Shalonda, this is one that you brought to our attention that we had sort of, didn't go over as we should have. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah,
The board norms?
basically, yes. Basically, the board identified that there's some work that we should do, can do, and need to do in order to create cohesion amongst all 7 of us that are represented here today. And we did have someone from MASB come down and attempt some interactive team-building activities, but that's where the ball stopped. So this is on the agenda so that we can move forward with creating some board norms. Now that we have 2 board members, bring their perspective into this space, gain a better understanding of every individual's why. What is the reason why you are on the board? How can we collectively and collaboratively talk about our district's priorities? Set some realistic goals so that we can have these tough conversations. Talk about the data that is presented to us, that has not been presented to us, that we need to discover that's out here. Our hope is that we get that scheduled, we come together as a board, put something in writing, and actively adhere to those board norms. Agree to all hold each other accountable so that we can come to the community demonstrating cohesion, camaraderie, understanding, bringing information about what we are actively doing to close the achievement gaps, increasing our literacy scores, ensuring that our students are being adequately prepared to enter into college.
Thank you. I look forward to continuing discussion on that. So our old business hopefully becomes current business and future business, and we are able to establish those norms. Okay, thank you. Okay, now we go on to board comments. Does anybody have a comment on the board?
I do.
Keisha?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
So first I want to just thank everyone, but I'll start with our State Board President, State Board of Education President, Dr. Pamela Pugh, who is a champion for public education and an advocate of our 1.3 million Michigan students, for being here tonight. She's here tonight in support of our students at Jackson Public School. Thank you so much for being here. I also want to thank everyone who has come out in support of public education, who have come out on behalf of our community, who are here because they recognize the power and necessity of truth-seeking and truth-speaking in order to provide an education that best serves each individual student in JPS. I want to thank those who understand that racial disparities exist, and the only way to eliminate those racial disparities is to face them. Thank you all for being here. Jackson Public Schools is bettered because of your concern and care for our student body, our parents, and our dedicated teachers. I'm going to deviate from my notes for just a minute because I am overwhelmed with the support of my community. I am overwhelmed with the way that you all showed up for me tonight. I am overwhelmed that the things that I have done in this community, the messages that I have put out there, the teachings that I have given, that you all have received them. Thank you. I can't say thank you enough. Thank you. Thank you. As a citizen of the United States of America under constitutional law and protection, I have a First Amendment right to free speech, and I exercise that in all spaces and all platforms that I choose. What I understand from being a woman in this American nation, and a black woman specifically, is that sometimes others would rather I not exercise any of my rights as outlined in the Constitution. I do not apologize for exercising any of my rights. I want to be clear, the real issue is not actually about me, and I realize that. What I am experiencing publicly as a black woman is what many of our black students and other vulnerable and marginalized groups are experiencing privately. The national temperature is at a boiling point, and this type of bullying, intimidation, gaslighting, ignoring, and attempting to silence that we have seen for a very long time, not only from individuals outside of this county, but also from this board table, is what's causing our educational system to fail here in Jackson. What I expect and hope that we as individuals who respect the Constitution and each other's rights under it would do is to, one, learn to ignore tweets that are disagreeable to you. Two, fully read the tweet and attempt to understand it. Three, choose to be a part of the solution so that in time, the tweet could no longer be factually true. We have to ask ourselves, what are we angered over? The fact that it was said, or the fact that it is true? Or is the issue our incomprehension of how policies and practices established by the white majority are impacting each of us? The real issues that brought many of us and many of these detractors out to exercise their First Amendment right are not the tweets. It's an agenda to eliminate and do away with public schools because public schools primarily serve the poor, the global majority, and other marginalized groups. We must not let them be successful. The real issue is an attempt to discredit, disrepute, censure, intimidate, and steal the seat of a person who dares to acknowledge the experiences of the vulnerable, who dares to compare them to the data of this district, the data along racial lines of this community, and address them. We must not let them be successful. The real issue is an attempt to disempower, bully, and intimidate citizens of the global majority and other marginalized groups into being quiet. You're here, you are here, you are here, you are here. And as long as you keep showing up, they will not be successful. And the last of the real issues is an attempt to silence the discussion around disparities along racial lines that exist not only in this district, this city, our county, or our state, but across this nation. We must educate ourselves more, understand how these racial disparities are impacting us and our neighbors, and not let them be successful in silencing us. Desmond Tutu, the South African bishop, theologian, and human rights activist said, "My humanity is bound up in yours, for we can only be human together." I invite each of you present to begin or continue the work around understanding the experiences of people who do not look like you. It's in these conversations where we will find that we are more alike than we are different. Our world is changing, to reflect the rich diverseness of each of us present. Accepting that will allow us to be part of the solution rather than part of the problem. I'll end with this as we come off this Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. holiday. In his famous words, whatever affects one directly affects us all indirectly. And injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. Again, thank you so much for showing up. Thank you.
Libby, do you have anything? Lib? Okay, thank you. Derek?
Sure, I have a few comments. I just want to recognize some of my former colleagues in attendance tonight. Vice Mayor Arlene Robinson, I saw out there, still here. Councilman Freddie Dancy, the city's Director of Diversity, Equity, Inclusion, John Willis, and I think that's County Commissioner Darius Williams sitting in the back as well. It's been these leaders, probably more than any other, that have taught me so much about some of the issues that so many raised here tonight, and my sincere appreciation for those that have showed up and voiced their support for Keisha here. As a mayor who led the city during the George Floyd protests and the activism that led to a lot of the changes in racial and economic policies in Jackson, I want to be the first to say that I've only been able to do that through listening to those leaders and recognizing sometimes an uncomfortable reflection on the privilege that my identity as a white male has conferred on me. It's what led me to address so many of those issues as mayor, and what will drive me to continue to work on those issues in partnership with those on this board. I think while so much progress has been made, systemic racism continues to permeate our society today. Those facts are not caused by any one of us sitting in this room. It's not any one of our individual faults, but it is everyone's obligation in this room to educate themselves on their realities and challenges that certain populations continue to face and do something about it. And I'll say, I think out of fairness, and because I have been to some of the past board meetings and listened and learned, I think that some of the language and tone of some of the past board meetings has probably felt threatening to both sides of the perceived divide on the board. And I'm happy for the opportunity to start fresh, to start new, to work together on board unity and collaboration. I think it's important to note that unity doesn't mean conformity to one idea, and that we can respect a diversity of opinions and different beliefs, and that we can disagree without being disrespectful as well. Tonight probably offers us a good step for us to educate ourselves about, continue to educate ourselves about racial injustice. Some of the terms discussed here tonight that were raised, to stand for economic and racial justice in the community and do what we can to address it in our schools, and arguably most important in this moment, to set a unifying tone in supporting those issues around diversity, equity, inclusion. It means we have to meet with one another, to listen to and learn from one another. So congrats to the new leadership, to my new board member, and look forward to working with everyone here, the rest of JPS leadership, and the educators and other faculty, and getting around for the opportunity to meet everybody.
Marilyn?
I just wanted to say how thankful I am to see so many people that came out and were bold enough to say their piece. And I'm really going to work hard as a new board member to collaborate, to have unity. It's not about my opinion, it's about collaboration. It's about the children. When Shalonda said, what was our why? It's because I really like children, and I want to see them succeed in life and be educated. And that's what we're here. That's why I'm here, for the children. So I look forward to working with the board and to hear all of your comments. Email me with anything that you need to, that you would like to have, noticed, or your concerns. So I thank you for coming out tonight.
I too would like to echo the importance of the desperate need for our district to refocus, re-envision what our priorities are. We know the impact that the pandemic caused all of our school systems across the nation. We have a lot of work to do. We can only address these issues if we can come together, agree to disagree, understand, take the time to ask those clarifying questions. At the fundamental level, our actions, our words, our beliefs should come from a place of love, with the intent to educate, inspire, call to action, invite others in, and invite those quiet voices in to those crucial conversations. I encourage all of you to come to next month's meeting. We appreciate looking in the audience and seeing individuals that genuinely care about our students. Our data is concerning, and we understand that. 2023, my hope as a board trustee is that we embark upon creating realistic, obtainable, SMART goals to address some of these issues. We need your support. We appreciate your support. We hear you loud and clear. Thank you so much.
I would like to thank Jeremy and Julie for your reports. I love hearing what's going on all around the district. I would like to especially thank Elaine Them for all of her work with Sam's Book Flood. I know she puts a ton of work into that, and my own child at Sharp Park loved the book he got, and I know she was busy traveling around to all the elementaries. So thank you to her. And then also the Parkside family event, like you had mentioned, Jeremy, was a great success. My own daughter said, don't come, but then when she saw how fun it was going to be, then we got a call, can you please come? So it was great. So hats off to Krista Jarvie and all the staff there. So thanks.
First, I'd like to say ditto to everything that was just said, since that when you speak last, you don't get to say the new stuff. I do want to add one thing, though. We have new board members. We have board members who've been with us for years who are here tonight. I am just thrilled to be in the position of working with this board, the new, the old, and trying to establish a consensus, if not 100% agreement. We need to be able to work together. And the one thing I want to say about all the turnout, I love having a lot of people here at the meeting. What I would like, and I did notice it, is that some of the comments, I could tell they didn't know the background on it. So come to the board meetings and be able to follow an issue through so you know where it came from, how it's been addressed, how it ended. I think you find there's a lot less distance between the opinions if everybody kind of knows what everybody else is thinking, doing, and what has happened so far. So, thank you for coming. Board, I'm absolutely thrilled to be starting anew this year and working with you. And please feel free to take your concerns to someone who can actually give you an answer, a reason, one of those why things we talk about so much. Thank you. See, I turned it off again. Okay. Calendar. January 25th is the Esser public hearing in Reynolds Hall. Now, that was changed to 5:30. Let's not forget that. Also on the 25th, the Facilities and Finance Committee immediately follows the public hearing. Now, will that still be? Okay, that'll be at 3 o'clock. So the finance meeting will be at 3 o'clock, followed by the Esser public hearing. And February 21st is our regular board meeting, and it'll be up in the library again, or as we now call it, the media center. Okay, I will hear or entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second? All in favor? Opposed?
Aye.
Okay, we're done. Thank you very much.